Members, the House is in committee on the Oranga Tamariki Repeal of Section 7AA Amendment Bill. We begin with the debate on Part 1. This is the debate on Clauses 3 to 5, amendments to the Oranga Tamariki Act 1989. The question is that Part 1 stand part. The Honourable Willow-Jean Prime.
Tēnā koe te manga atuari. Thank you very much for the opportunity to take this call on the Oranga Tamariki Repeal of Section 7AA Amendment Bill. I have a number of questions, and also we have some amendments that we would like to speak to throughout this committee stage as well. But I want to first start my contribution by saying how extremely disappointed I am in the Minister for failing to listen to the majority of submissions that were opposed to the repeal of Section 7AA, by not listening to the evidence that Section 7AA will cause harm to tamariki Māori. The Minister's failure to present any empirical evidence that there is a problem that exists with this section. Throughout the Select Committee process, no empirical evidence was provided to the Select Committee to support the Minister's repeal of Section 7AA. I want to start by asking the Minister, where in the Act will there be an obligation on the Chief Executive which replaces Section 7AA Clause 2A? Because in the repealing of this Act, that entire section is being removed, and there is no proposed amendment by the Minister to address this issue. And Madam Speaker, this is an important clause that is being repealed, because the whole purpose of Section 7AA was to ensure that the duties of the Chief Executive set out in this section are imposed in order to recognise and provide a practical commitment to the principles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Now, what Section 7AA 2A says is that the Chief Executive must ensure that the policies and practices of the Department that impact on the well-being of children and young persons have the objective of reducing disparities by setting measurable outcomes for Māori children and young persons who come to the attention of the Department. So my question to the Minister is, why is she repealing that section? Why does the Minister not think that it is important that there be an obligation on the Chief Executive to ensure that the policies and practices of Oranga Tamariki reduce disparities for tamariki Māori? What is the point of retaining a strategic partnership if the purpose of that is not to ensure that we are reducing the disparities for tamariki Māori? So my question to the Minister is, why is the Minister doing that? Where else in the Act is that obligation placed on the CEO? And what is the point of having strategic partnerships if it isn't to do the fundamental objective of this section, which is to ensure that they are reducing disparities for tamariki Māori? And Madam Speaker, this is important because tamariki Māori make up 2/3 of the children in state care. That is why we have this section. That is why this is a very, very important debate in the House this evening.
I call Kahurangi Carter.
Thank you. Today we are talking about the disparities that tamariki Māori face in care, and these are historical disparities that we still are dealing with today in 2025. I have an amendment paper 240, and the purpose of this amendment is that it elaborates on and clarifies what is meant by requiring regard for Māori culture, values and beliefs, and why that is so important for our tamariki Māori to have safety, security, stability and aroha, which is their birthright. It requires specific attention to be paid to the inherent value and dignity of tamariki Māori and their whakapapa in all actions taken and services delivered by Oranga Tamariki. A Māori worldview is one where children don't belong just to their parents. They belong and have that sense of belonging not only to their parents but to their whānau, to their hapu, to their iwi, to their maunga, to their awa. And 7AA was the bare minimum for acknowledging their rights under Article 2 of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. The Green Party agree with the Waitangi Tribunal, which found that repealing Section 7AA would lead to, quote, clear breaches of Article 2, guarantee to Māori of tino rangatiratanga over kāinga and of the treaty principles of partnership and active protection, end quote. This bill fundamentally misunderstands that tikanga, Māori and the role of whānau in a child's well-being. Tamariki do not just belong to their parents, they belong to their whānau, their hapu, their iwi, their river, their maunga. Māori have long understood this, and children thrive within their whakapapa. Just a few weeks ago, I attended the St. Patrick's Day event, and we're talking about the Irish people and other people who had their language, their culture tried to be stamped out of them, but their government took it seriously, and that was what they called the regalification of Ireland. And seeing those tamariki so proud of their culture, even though they live here in New Zealand and maybe had never been to Ireland before, they were so proud that they knew about St. Patrick's Day, they knew about their culture, and that made them feel so safe and stable and loved, because we know and they know that a child shouldn't be disconnected from their culture. And we know that it has only been a short time since the Royal Commission of Inquiry came out, and one of the main things that came out of that was disconnection and being pulled from their whakapapa caused actual harm to them, harm that they are still trying to heal from today. Section 7AA is the only legislative tool that comes close to addressing the failings of our government, and its repeal will not only breach te tiriti, but actively put tamariki Māori at risk. There is no conflict between tikanga and safety. Rather, they are inseparable. This amendment strengthens the obligation to uphold the dignity and whakapapa of tamariki Māori. And I know the Minister was really concerned about the interpretation of 7AA by Oranga Tamariki staff, and that was what motivated her to bring this to the House, because of that interpretation. Well, this is a way, by amending this and accepting my amendment paper 240, to put that back in. So I want to ask, will the Minister accept this amendment?
Madam Chair.
I call the Honourable Karen Chhour.
So first of all, Madam Chair, I'll just give an answer to Honourable Willow-Jean Prime around the reporting and the obligations of assessing outcomes for Māori children. This bill does not alter those obligations in any way. There are many ways that Oranga Tamariki is assessed on outcomes being achieved for Māori children and young people and their whānau. One of those ways that it's reported is produced by the Independent Children's Monitor report. And any questions the Independent Children's Monitor requests information from Oranga Tamariki on, Oranga Tamariki is obligated to provide that information. So that's one of the ways that the Chief Executive is making sure that the outcomes being achieved for Māori are going well. But what I would say is that Oranga Tamariki's focus should be that all children and outcomes of all children should be a focus of Oranga Tamariki, and all children that are in state care should be receiving the same love, care and respect. So that's the first point. The second one is speaking to amendment paper number 240. I will not be supporting this amendment. This amendment is not consistent with the policy intent of the bill to repeal Section 7AA of the Act. The suggested amendment exists in the context of the Chief Executive's responsibility to achieve the principles and purposes of the Act, to promote the wellbeing and best interests of children, young persons and their families, whānau, hapu, iwi and family groups in particular.
I call the Honourable Willow-Jean Prime.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we've got through the first part that has gone through on there. So you got a question there from Willow-Jean Prime. You got a question there, got a question and amendment, but basically from Willow-Jean Prime and from Kahurangi Carter. One of the MPs is from the Labour Party, the other MP is from the Green Party, and the Minister basically flat out rejected the proposed amendments. Not surprised. How would you like to make a commentary on that?
If I can just start off first off, I mean, how are you going to trust a government that tries to get out of a contract or an agreement that they've made with people? First of all, so for me personally, I don't trust anybody who's going to make an agreement or a contract, then as soon as it benefits themselves, they just want to opt out of that. So already the authenticity of what this government wants, just showing from that article, shows exactly what they've done to this country. And I'm really saddened to hear from the current minister that it's there to protect all tamariki. Since when did tikanga or protocols of Māori, te ao Māori, the world of Māori, not be there for all children? Since when did Māori say that we only want our Māori tamariki to be looked after? In fact, te ao Māori is for everybody, like what Kahurangi Carter said. This is about how we live and breathe te ao Māori. So this is for everybody, but as a pathway in ways that we harvest that knowledge, that whakapapa, our lineage, and when we have whakawhanaungatanga, we realise the connection to each other from that. And that isn't just for Māori, that's for everybody.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok.